All right, everyone, good morning. Friday morning, the final morning briefing of the week. I am Hamish. He is Tony. Paul's poolside in Tenerife. Tony. Not at all jealous of Paul, are we?
Oh, well, Jill, as the youngsters say, well, Jill. But I hope you're enjoying yourself, Paul. Wee Ryan's somewhere in that neck of the woods, isn't he? I believe so.
He
Say
is,
hello. You see
actually.
him? Aye, yes. So, if
Any
you
sign of him, Paul? Have you come across a wee guy walking around? He's probably on the pints, enjoying himself, not thinking about Celtic. He's not missing much either, to be honest, Tony, transfer-wise. Although, there is some outgoing stuff we can talk about today, because that's always
yeah.
fun.
To be fair, I don't think Ryan switches off, so he'll have a pint, but he'll have his mobile phone or his laptop or whatever device he has and keeping his ear to the ground, shall we say.
Yeah. Right, first of all, a big thanks to our sponsors, MPH Boilers and Weissman. If you're looking for a winning heating solution for your home, I was about to say this winter, it is summer for you guys, but it doesn't really feel like it. MPH Boilers is your go-to team. They're an award-winning family-run business serving all of mainland Scotland. They bring the best in boiler installations and servicing. Partnered with Weissman, who are known for their top-notch German-engineered boilers, MPH Boilers ensures your home stays warm and efficient all year round. Visit www.mphboilers.co.uk for more details. Morning, everyone. Morning, Big Dom in London. Don't think there's any more exotic locations, is there?
Not yet. No.
Yeah. No game this weekend, Tony. We've kind of got a wee bit of a wait. Well, no game we know about. There has been. I think I saw something about a closed door game against whoever. Is it Steve Evans? Whoever his team are. I keep forgetting what team he manages. It's an English kind of lower league team. Certainly no public match until we go to the States.
Yeah. Steve Evans recently took up the post somewhere, didn't he? Is it Stevenage? That rings a bell.
Rotherham.
Rotherham back. I used to be the
Rotherham.
manager. He was the manager of Stevenage, and he went back to Rotherham. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's. Yep, indeed. So I think he's gone back there for a second stint. So good on him. Well, if that's the case, then that'll keep them ticking over, won't it? But hey,
Yeah.
we shall see what happens. I'm sure. Even if it's a closed doors friendly, news of it will appear somewhere. Hamish, it always does.
You'll probably get an invite because you're often behind these games where people don't even have tickets. You find a way and do your reporting and all of that stuff. Monty bringing up Mohamed El Yunusi. I saw a bit of this. £2.5 million release clause apparently. Experienced player I would welcome back. He would be an improvement in that left-hand side. Should we be looking back? What's your thoughts on El Yunusi?
I know Ryan was a big fan of El Yunusi. I'm always the kind of guy who likes to move forward in my thinking and sign fresher players. But yeah, I think El Yunusi is one of these guys who took on some kind of mystical reverence. He was a wonderful player for Celtic. He was just all right, and no more than that. You know what I mean? In my
Yeah.
opinion, people can beg to differ. He had talent, but I just thought he was all right. He was okay, but not somebody I'd be rushing to buy back even at that price.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. He certainly had his good moments with us, his kind of disappointing matches at times as well. But I don't sense the club will be looking
No.
back as much as we've been linked with players. I'm not sure if any former players will actually come in this summer. I'm guessing as the summer goes on, maybe Kieran Tierney will be mentioned again and that kind of stuff. Christopher saying frustration does not cover it. The lack of urgency by the board to get signings in is disgraceful. I don't think the board is doing enough. I'm getting angrier by the day. I don't think you're the only one, Christopher. I mean, you just have to look under any tweet sent out by the club at the moment, and every reply virtually, Tony, is about get players in, get players in. There were some quotes from Brendan Rodgers. I think you were there on Wednesday night. Speaking after the game,
Yeah.
and saying, I mentioned before about getting at least a couple in before we go to America. That's still the idea. We all know we lost 3 players and they were very important players for us. That alone demonstrates we need to make that right, and we also have to improve. Was there anything else from Brendan Rodgers that took your interest regarding players coming in, because he's not given a great deal away there.
No, he wasn't given a great deal away, but also he body language experts, he was very relaxed about it, because the three that he was talking about were Joe Hart, Adam Reid and Paulo Bernardo, and the question was specifically asked about Ida and Bernardo, and he said that things were bubbling away and Celtic were still kind of working on those deals. So I think he is still quite confident that those guys will come in, and probably it's a bit of a race against time to be in before America. But feeling that, I think he still fully expects them to be in America at some stage. Both Adam Reid and Paulo Bernardo. So he was still, as I say, fairly relaxed about stuff, and still giving off the vibe that we know what we're about. And so again, you can only take the manager at his word, and people getting frustrated about the lack of signings. It's not going to change it, is it? There's the only people that can change it is the Celtic manager, the Celtic board. And timing is of the essence. Ideally, we want these guys in and assimilated for, during the USA pre-season trip and the bonding and all that you need. And so, but in typical Celtic fashion, there was people putting out yesterday, we just like Celtic to not having signed anybody and then start entertaining bids for Matt O'Reilly, Rio Hattati, that kind of thing. So we keep saying it, that the Celtic hierarchy have forum for these kind of transfer shenanigans, and I think that's the frustrating thing here for a lot of Celtic supporters, Hamish. They really went into summer with confidence and optimism, and they were up there, having won the League and Cup double, and they were kind of looking forward to, right, who they're going to bring in, and the manager was saying the giving off the right vibes and saying a lot of good things. They're still kind of saying it, how many days on, somebody said it was like 50 odd, more than 50 days since Celtic won the Scottish Cup and still haven't signed anybody. I don't really care what other teams are doing if you're going to compare them to Celtic's rivals across the city. Don't care what Rangers are doing. It's always about what Celtic are doing. For me, I couldn't tell you the players that Rangers have signed because I'm not particularly interested. We'll find them out, how good they are or how good, bad, or indifferent they are in the fullness of time. But for me, it's always about Celtic and what they do. And at the moment, I think that frustration is the word, isn't it? The buzzword now. That quality that the manager was banging on about is there's nobody came in the door, so thus far. But as I say, I'm still hopeful. I'm hoping that today or over the weekend that something will give on that and Celtic will do some business.
I think we don't want a repeat of last summer.
No, we don't.
And to me, it feels very similar so far to last summer. Maybe even last summer we'd signed a player by this point. We would have, because Home and Tillio and guys like that. I totally get that Brendan Rodgers is calm, and I think you can look at that positively. The fact that he still thinks we'll get in what we need, and he's not panicking. And I think you'd be more worried if he was panicking.
Mm-hmm.
But equally, I remember him being very calm last summer throughout the window, and then once we got to the Champions League games and weren't getting the results, I remember him speaking after and saying, look, we need more quality. So that's my fear, that happens again, that he seems calm throughout the window, but we don't get in what we need. And then, midway through our Champions League campaign, he's saying the same things as last year. That's what we need to avoid. And I'm sorry, Brendan Rodgers cannot be happy that we're a month into the window and haven't signed players. I know publicly he says all that stuff, and I get that. And again, I say, he's not going to say publicly, this is a disgrace, the board need to get their finger out, etc. But he can't be happy that, a keeper isn't in the door yet, because it's a bit of a shambles that we're a month in and a keeper hasn't been signed.
I think the optics on it certainly look terrible, don't they? We've known since February that Joe Hart's going to hang up his gloves, and that it's very important, and I don't know if he's maybe waiting on the kind of, I said before, they might do the kind of 1, 2, 3, bringing in X, Y, and Z, and it's a goalkeeper, it's a striker, it's a left back. I'm hopeful. I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt on this, but the more time passes, the more you sort of say, well, have they learned nothing from last summer shambolic transfer window? which put them in the situation that they were in domestically as well. When push came to shove, when they had the wobble round about Christmas time, it was because the team was bereft of the quality that the manager craves. I agree. I think publicly the manager won't come out and have a go or have a proper slaughter anybody, but privately he might be thinking, right, come on. He needs to know as well what's happening, because he needs to formulate plans with certain players in it, and the shape of his team, how he's going to play. So, but again, he's giving off the vibe that he's fairly relaxed and calm about it all, and I don't know if that's just to sort of stress to the supporters as well. But don't stress, I've got this. And I just hope he has. It's not Brendan you don't trust. It's the people above him, isn't
it? Yeah. Okay, it's really frustrating as fans, isn't it? Because you can see history repeating itself from the last couple of windows, and it's blindingly obvious what we need. And listen, we might get in everything we need, and we might look at the end of the window and go, God, that was an unbelievable window. But we know what we need, and it's a number of positions. And I think as supporters, we're already reaching the point. Well, I am personally, when I'm looking at all the positions we need, centre back, left back, forward, Ida, Bernardo, goalkeeper, and I'm already thinking we're probably not going to get in everything we need. And to me, that is unacceptable. We all know what we need. We've known, about take left back for example. We've known for like a year, if not longer, that we've needed a left back in, and still there's no real talk of it. And as I say, I always think windows should probably be judged at the end. But equally, we can only call it as we see it at the moment, and it's incredibly frustrating that day after day, week after week passes, and players don't come in.
I made the point before as well, Hamish. I think the supporters deserve better, because in a few weeks' time they're going to be asking them to, dip into their pockets and coffers again for the Champions League ticket prices.
It won't be cheap.
You're correct, right? Because there's more games now. Right, so it won't be cheap. So that package will be, very expensive. They, hand over fist, they clamour for any kind of merchandise, i.e., replica kits, and the Celtic fans, answer that call. They do their bit, and so you just want that reciprocated, don't you? Because all the money that they pour into the club, you want to see being put to good use, and that means signing the quality players. And I think they deserve to have a decent window. But, there's an overriding concern that maybe they're too concerned about what's happening on the other side of the city and thinking that they don't need to spend a lot of money because of things that are happening, right? There's that school of thought too. I'd hate to think that was permeating any of the, lack of activity at this minute, because again... Would
you be stunned, though? I mean,
well, I wouldn't be stunned. I wouldn't be stunned, but I don't care about what's happening over there. It's their problem.
100%.
Celtic want to push on and be the team that you and I want to see represent them best they can, domestic and in Europe. It's a wonderful new competition you're entering in terms of the Champions League. I keep saying it. I want a refresh, and I think the Celtic rank and file supporters and every Celtic supporter deserve that. They deserve to have the best possible team that their financial parameters allow. I don't think that's too much to ask, is it?
It's very simple for me. Measure yourself at the top level, Champions League, improve the team to compete at Champions League level. The Scottish Premiership will take care of itself if you do that. Forget about Rangers. Look at the Champions League and try and achieve results at that level. And as I say, Scottish football will take care of itself if you do that.
Exactly, Hamish. That has to be your thinking. You have to bring in these quality players because you're now entering a tournament where you want to go in and make an impression. I'm fed up seeing Celtic lose in Europe. I want to see a competitive Celtic in Europe. The manager craves it. The supporters crave it more than anything. Because as you say, if you bring in, I say it a lot, but you bring in quality players, you'll have a quality football team. And a quality football team wins that domestic league. It could reel off the treble if you have enough quality in your ranks. Okay, the bounce of a ball in any given game in a cup tie can go against you at a decision. We get all that, but you see, these things take care of themselves, don't they? And if you're competing at that highest level, then it stands to reason that you're going to be too good for the opposition domestically. So it all goes down to that. It's the big A word, isn't it? It's that ambition. And time after time, supporters are as ambitious as anybody out there, and it's the hierarchy and the board that stifle that. And it's ad nauseum, isn't it?
It deflates you so much, and it deflates you at a time. It deflates you at a time when we're all where. And to be honest, I still am feeling really good about Brendan Rodgers and the players because of the way they finished last season. But it's those the board and those really in power at the club that just deflate you with their apparent lack of ambition. As I say, they could prove us wrong in this window. You always say that there's still time to go, but like we're a month gone, and nothing's happened, Tony.
The caveat is that we're not at the end of the window.
Yeah.
And there might be a real hectic rush of activity, and as you see, you might sit back and go, wow, where did that come from? But that's you giving them the benefit of the doubt, isn't it? And which you're willing to do at this juncture, because there's lots of goodwill towards the manager, the way the season finished. But you need to capitalise on that. Where is the feel-good factor now for Celtic? The feel-good factor can't be endless reruns of Adam Ida's goal in the Scottish Cup final. That's in the past. That was last season. Yeah. We're moving forward. So moving forward to me would have been getting this guy in the door and looking forward to what comes next. But, that kind of, the needle returns to the start of the song and nothing ever happens. Nothing happens at all. You just, and every time you get yourself into a state of, is this the season that they're going to kind of, open the purse strings, and you allow yourself to dream, for want of a better word. And, as you say, the board and the hierarchy just, they temper your enthusiasm, don't they? They strip all that goodwill by their inertia. And you just, and you say to yourself, fool me once, fine, fool me twice, but, you think to yourself, we won't get fooled again. But, and that's why I say the Celtic supporters deserve better, because they hand over their hard-earned cash all the time, hoping and praying that things get better, and I include the purchase of quality players that the manager says, and I'm still very hopeful that will happen. I'm still hopeful that guys will come in before they go on the American tour. But if they don't come in before they embark on the American tour, and we play DC United with no new faces, it will really start to chime with me, and I'll start to get a wee bit frantic and a bit worried about that, because that's the 21st of July. Earlier was the 21st, isn't it? So what's that? 9 days. 9 days are still a bit of time to get people in the door. And Celtic can go to America and still bring guys over, bring them in.
Yeah, well, you've got until the end of August, obviously, for the transfer window, but you've got about 12 days until the start of the season, I think, from the DC United game to get players in.
But I want to see evidence of that they're actually doing something. That's that. I think that's what every supporter wants right now, and so we shall see.
A number of people asking, what is it that's holding up these deals, and why haven't we signed any players yet? And the truth is, at fans, we don't really know. But in my mind, I tend to think that it's of Celtic's doing. Are we going for the right players here? Have we been totally organised? They always say that you should know going into the summer window what your business is. You should have a list of targets, and you go for your top one. If you don't manage that, you go down the list. And I don't know this for sure, but you just get the impression that Celtic aren't as organised as they should be in that regard. And the other thing that I've got in my mind is, are we penny pinching again? Are we insulting clubs? Are we taking too long to get deals done that we could just offer an amount and not be taken for a ride or anything, but just get these players in? So I've got that in my mind.
I get that and that's what makes me laugh about Celtic. They will not sell their own family silver on the cheap, and they want top dollar for their players. So it stands to reason that if you're targeting other teams' players, they'll want top dollar as well. So lowballing the likes of Adam Ida, fine well that Adam Ida's valuation had gone up in the summer from the 3 million that people were speculating it might cost to buy him before he'd kicked the ball for Celtic. Once his goal scoring exploits came to the fore, you knew fine well that was more or less going to double, and Norwich were going to chance their arm and try and get as much as they can for him. Now, you either be serious about Adam Idah or you don't. If you're seriously wanting him and the manager wants him and he said the board knows his feelings on them, stop mucking around. Within reason, say to Norwich, right, let's come to some agreement here. What is it you want from him? But be realistic, and we'll be realistic. And if it's between 6 and 7 million, then pay it, Hamish, because the money's there. Yeah. He's a tried and tested. Correct. And the optics, again, I'll go back to the optics. That's your statement signing there. That tells you mean business. Sends out the right message, doesn't it? There you go. There's the money for Adam Idah. He wants to come here. We want him. You're coming where he's loved. Right. First piece of the jigsaw in. Right. And you know the way he wants him to play. And the manager's told you that he likes to function with a focal point up front. Go and do that business. But with Celtic, it's always protracted. There's always offers. Many times you read Celtic, the stumbling blocks, barriers, prevents. I get fed up. And it's just the way Celtic do business. They never. The only time they've ever gone in and went bump, bump, bump was when Ange Postecoglou was here.
Just about to say that. So what's changed? Well, we know it's changed. Ange isn't there, but I mean, if Postecoglou was still in charge, we wouldn't have signed no players at this point.
Correct.
So why do they not feel the same way about Rodgers? Is it our scouting team just isn't good enough? I know Ange and his agent, I think, did a lot of the recruitment at the club. That's the general feeling because of their contacts and the players we signed. That's a frustrating thing. A couple of years ago, it felt like things were changing. The last 3 windows so far have been horrendous.
Yeah, absolutely dreadful.
Anyway,
but what that shows to me is that quick deals can be done. Right, when Ange was here, right? So it's a pertinent question. What is the hold up now? How is it all gone pear-shaped again in terms of deals?
Well, people are saying Law's back. That's what Ross is saying.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So we're kind of speculating on that, aren't we? We're kind of putting 2 and 2 together.
Yeah. And we don't know. That's the thing. We don't know who's in charge of these negotiations. We don't have a clue.
And we don't have a head of recruitment at the minute. So the thing about it was Ange acted as head of recruitment, manager and scout because he had that local knowledge of Japan, the Japanese league, J1 league. And he just went him, and him. And Celtic said, fine, okay, we'll go with that. And they were Ange's signing. So if the manager has identified players, he clearly identified Adam Idah and he wants Adam Idah, get him in. Right? As people saying, we should go for Bojan Majowski. And you know what? See, me personally, I'd bring the 2 of them in because what a statement that would be as well. That would tell you that you do mean business, functioning with 3 strikers, Kyogo, Idah and Bojan Majowski, if that's the way, if you're inclined that way. But the Celtic board don't work like that, do they? Again, I go back to that ambition. Celtic supporters' ambition for the club's vaulting. It's a vaulting ambition. With the eternal optimists and dreamers, speaking for myself personally, I am so that's the kind of... I wouldn't be frivolous with the money, but I would be like, right, okay, can we get him? Yeah, how much? Go and get him. But most other clubs, that's how they conclude business, isn't it? Celtic becomes, protracted negotiations, sagas, and it's been like that for as long as I can remember, isn't it? Yeah. I say, apart from Angie's kind of signing policy there at the first few windows, I've never known Celtic to ever just identify a player and a couple of days later he's in the door. I could be wrong, people give me instances, but it's usually a long drawn out affair, isn't it?
Listen, it's frustrating. You can probably tell that. We're trying to kind of keep everything relative because there is still time, but I think we've both had enough of no business happening, and it's judging from all your comments coming in, we're not alone in the way we're feeling. Anyway, I just wanted to mention a couple of things. Daniel Kelly, we'll come on to that in a wee second. Matt O'Reilly, talk of Atalanta. I think the report is that they've bid 16 million. Yes, really, an insult. That's a Celtic bid from Atalanta for
Yes.
Matt O'Reilly. We've rejected it. Atletico Madrid, Southampton also in for him, so that one's going to keep going, I guess, over the summer. A bid from an unnamed Russian.
Pick a team, any team, Hamish, for Matt O'Reilly. Get used to it. It's until somebody stumps up the fee that Celtic want, which is in excess of 30 million, isn't it? Between 30 and 35 million, something like that, I believe. 32.
Yeah.
So we shall see.
We hold the cards with Matt O'Reilly. A club needs
do.
to come in if we're going to lose him. It needs to be a mega big bid, close to 30 million. Offer from an unnamed Russian team for Real Haggerty, again immediately rejected from Celtic. In fact, rejected isn't the right word, because apparently we didn't even get down to discussing a fee. We don't want to do business with Russian clubs, given Russia's invasion of Ukraine a couple of years ago. I think we'd all agree that's the right decision from the club. So it seems like Haggerty, even if it's a non-Russian club, won't be going anywhere, which is good. So that's kind of outgoing stuff. Daniel Kelly as well. Brendan Rodgers explained the situation and has confirmed, Tony, that Kelly's absence from the pre-season matches so far is linked to the fact that he hasn't agreed a new deal. Yeah, so there are some quotes from Brendan Rodgers. I don't know if I actually need to read them out. Basically, that is the story, that Kelly isn't featuring while his future is up in the air. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I stood right next to Brendan Rodgers when he made those quotes, and it was my question. I said to him, I have to ask you about Daniel Kelly on the back of Fabrizio Romano's tweet. And again, he was as cool as a cucumber and as calm as anything. And he spoke about the Rocco Vata situation. Said that Rocco was offered a deal to be the third striker at Celtic, but he chose not to go, chose not to take that, chose to go to Watford. And he said that's perfectly okay. But Brendan Rodgers made a point of saying he knows where players are in terms of their technical and financial perspective, young players that is. So he was making the point that Celtic have made these guys the best possible deal, offered the best possible deal for where they are in their development. So I'm taking Brendan Rodgers at face value at that he's saying that Celtic have made them those offers. Rocco Vata chose to reject it and sign for Watford, and he said there's no impasse with Daniel Kelly, but he doesn't think that the optics of playing a player who's not signed a new deal. He said that, and he said that they've still got till December, January time to sort this out. But that explains Daniel Kelly's absence from the pre-season friendlies at this minute. I said it was an impasse. He said it wasn't an impasse. So he just said, listen, this is the situation. And he broke it down for us and said they've been offered what they believe to be the best possible deal that Celtic could offer them in terms of their technical and financial perspective, he said. And then he made a point of saying, I know the value of young footballers. So it was just a wee kind of a warning shot from Brendan Rodgers, just sort of saying, yep, you might be good players, but you can't command that top dollar just yet, because there's still growth and development that you have to do before you can command kind of top wages. And he said he's spoken to the players and the agents, especially in Kelly's instance. He really likes Kelly. He loves Kelly. So. He loves it, and he knows. He's spoken to. He just thinks his interest would be best served staying at Celtic. That's what Brendan Rodgers feels at this moment in time. So. Again, you take the manager at face value and you say that Celtic have done right by these two young players. One's left the building, and the other one is currently free to talk to clubs, isn't he? Because he's entering the final 6 months of his deal, and we shall wait and see what happens with that. But it was very interesting, as I say, and I felt it was a question that needed to be asked in light of the tweets that were coming out in the kind of news. But again, Brendan Rodgers is very calm and composed and cool about it, and he said if Daniel Kelly wants to follow Rocco Vata out the door, then okay, that's it. It's his decision. So we shall see what happens with that. If Daniel Kelly does decide to sign a new deal, I would love him to sign a new deal, because as I say, I grew up with members of his family and they're a great family and they're big Celtic supporters, but again, all of these negotiations and talks are between the player, the family, his agent, and Celtic manager, and at the minute there's no deal being signed, and the ball's very much in, I guess, the players' court, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think as fans, we look at the financial aspect. The big question I'm seeing, a lot of people asking, how much has he been offered? I think with young players, the money's obviously important. It kind of differs depending on what kind of person you are, how much you put the money at the forefront of your mind. But I think a big part of it is what's the pathway for Daniel Kelly, and Rodgers' answer certainly suggested that Kelly would be sticking around the Celtic first team and would get opportunities if he signs this new deal. So I guess it's up to the player. I just think it'd be a real shame because he seems like he's got a fair bit of potential. I think Rodgers really likes him, and I think Rodgers backs himself to really develop Daniel Kelly, possibly into a Celtic first team player, a player who can be relied on and can give us some consistent, really big moments.
And the small sample size that you've seen from Daniel Kelly, you've been very impressed. Scored a wonder goal for his first Celtic career goal against Dundee, and and it was like, wow, the spotlight was really on him because he took it so well, and you thought, this is a talented kid.
Seems switched on as well. You know better than me, the family, but it seems like he's kind of knows what he wants. So
exactly, and so I just think, I don't think this is irreparable, and I would just love to see an amicable solution. I'd love to see Daniel Kelly become a Celtic player, because I think deep down, I think that's what the family would love as well. But I'm not involved in those negotiations. I'm not involved in, so the manager is saying he knows the player's worth in these situations. So, and the club know their worth in these situations. So fine. But I just think that kind of the young talent, heading out the door, that it doesn't have to be this way with someone like Daniel Kelly. So there has to be some kind of wriggle room. There has to be some kind of give here in terms of, because I want what's best for Celtic as well. And I think he could play a prominent part in Celtic's future moving forward, and so does Brendan Rodgers. And I think he's trying to sort of say, listen, I'll guide you the right way, and you stick with me and play in this football team. The riches and the rewards will come, Hamish. It follows on, doesn't it? That if you play for X amount of first team games, your value will increase. People will see how talented you are, and all of that will come. So I just hope there's a real amicable solution with Daniel Kelly, and because as I say, it's tough knowing the family members as well, and so we'll see what happens. But I just hope that he, unlike Rocco Vata, stays at Celtic.
Should we be allowing someone like Daniel Kelly's contract to run down to this stage anyway? Should there not be a point maybe 18 months ago where you try and get him signed up, and it's maybe easier at that point when he's a bit younger? You know what I mean? Like, I just feel now he's had a taste, he'll maybe want more, and maybe we can't offer that, or maybe there's more interest in him now. Should we, when he's that little bit younger, get him signed up for longer to protect ourselves a bit more?
It's your forward planning, isn't it? If you're across everything, then that would have been the case. As I say, Brendan Rodgers wasn't here 18 months ago, was he? So he would probably have been all over that, because he would have noticed Kelly's potential, and he might have flagged up and said, what's the story with this young boy? When's his contract up? Right, should we not be entering into some sort of negotiations or discussions about the way forward? And there is no point in having that pathway to the first team for young players if they're all going to leave because they don't feel they're valued or getting their worth. But I just thought that comment about the manager knowing the players' worth in terms of their financial perspective and technical perspective, I thought that was pretty telling from Rodgers, sort of saying, no, crawl before you can walk before you can run type stuff. You are a talented footballer. Nobody needs to tell people that. But in terms of what I think Brendan is saying, these guys were made offers that were commensurate with their current technical value and the financial value in terms of what the club, rates them at. So I really did find that those kind of comments telling.
Yeah, it's a bit of a frustrating time at the moment, isn't it, with all
For
the
everything,
news, and it seems like all the news we're hearing is players leaving rather than coming in, so it needs to change, really. It's been a good cheery video, Tony, sending everyone into the weekend in
The finest of
fine
fettle.
spirits. Yeah.
But that's
Oh, well.
that's the nature of your club, isn't it? All they have to do is to sign players, Hamish. Give everybody something to cheer for, and look forward to, and put them into the weekend with a spring in their step. Just that. Someone, I think, put a comment up earlier and said it's Groundhog Day, and it is. There's a touch of Groundhog Day about it all, isn't there?
Yeah.
We come to think,
Yeah.
Nobody signed. There's a barrier to this signing, or there's a stumbling block here. It's broken down, or is this the next one from the production line of talent, or conveyor belt of talent about to leave? It's up to Celtic to do something about those kind of headlines. The manager spoke last year about writing their own story. Well, that applies to board members as well. Let's rewrite the narrative, the summer narrative here by doing something. Because as I get back to it, the Celtic fans actually deserve it. They deserve it more than anything. And I think, as you say, a month in and nothing's happened. I think it's pretty scandalous, to be honest. I've got to be truthful on that, But again, having been in close proximity to the manager the other night and the way he's speaking, he's not panicking, and they still have the benefit of the doubt time-wise, because they'll not compete in the Champions League till September, so they do have till the end of August. But my goodness, give us something to warm the cockles, as they say, Hamish, even though it's summer. Or supposed to be.
No, I know, totally. I'm just thinking how good the last few years have been on the pitch generally, the things we've won, the great moments we've had, and I'm just thinking, imagine the club actually showed a bit of ambition, how much joy we would get. Oh, it could still happen, Tony, but it's the days are ticking on, and it's frustrating. Hopefully by the time we're next on Monday, we might have something positive to talk about. No game this weekend, as we say, that we know about anyway. The next one's DC United in the USA very soon. Yeah. Right, I think we've run out of chat, so we're going to say goodbye. Thanks for your time, Tony. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Very busy one today. Thanks everyone for commenting, etc. And we'll speak to you next week.